Juve Light so far?
You can't sell out all of the Juve lights if you.
Actually, so I'm really trying to. The good thing is that like I did one of those. It's from this company called Everlywell. So it's like a men's health test, and it's like a saliva where they'll check your testosterone, cortisol, something else, and something else. So I did that right before I started. I'm not changing any other habits in terms of my sleep and my exercise, so I'm going just as hard as I usually do. But I've been using that in the morning and some nights, and yeah, like again, I don't know if it's placebo or not, but like I'm just feeling much better during the day. Even like without coffee, I'm still just feeling like I have a lot of energy. And I mean, I've always had good energy. It's not like I've been tired,
Right.
but I'm feeling better, which is good. You know, that's a good thing. And yeah, my sleep's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sleeping throughout
noticed.
the whole night.
I noticed right away that like that morning fogginess that takes a little bit longer to kind of get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
Like I walk out of the house and I'm just like, oh man, today's gonna be a great day. Like without really even thinking about anything.
Yeah.
And the other day I was just like, like wonder if this has anything to do with it, or I'm just like on a really good streak of like getting good sleep or something.
Yeah.
Am I saying this right? It's called a Juve Light, is that right?
Juve,
Juve.
Joovv.
And you know, we're messing around with some products over here at Slingshot, and like I've only used it for just several minutes, but I will say that just being in front of the light just made me feel like I kind of went outside,
Mm-hmm.
which to me, like I don't know how everybody else feels, but I like you go outside, and yeah, like it is summertime right now, so it's kind of hot, but other than like the uncomfortableness of the heat, you know, from this light, you're just feeling like a little energy boost. So like I want to mess around with it more. I want to play around with it more. And we have friends that swear by it and say it helps raise your testosterone levels. And we're not going to hear information like that and just let it go.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why I'm like I'm curious to after I'm probably going to do a test after 30 days. Then I'll do another test after 60 and maybe after 90, because what I'm curious about is, okay, I'm probably going to see a rise because I have so many people have like gotten that test and seen a rise, but will it be consistently high, or will it like go up and then will it start trickling back down to where it was with continued use? That's what I'm curious
And
about.
what was the test that you said? You said it was just saliva?
Yeah, it's from a company called Everlywell, and it was a saliva test. And I was trying to test like, will it be as let's say as accurate as blood? And it kind of it will be. And they've done a lot of testing, and they've like made saliva testing more consistent, where you'll be pretty damn close to what a blood test is going to give you, if not like the exact thing in terms of those panels.
The advantage here is that they just send you a kit.
Mhm.
You just spit into something, right? And you send it back.
Send it back, and it's quick.
And so blood is like kind of complicated. You have to go to like a professional, or like have, you know, somebody come to your house and draw blood from you, which can be costly.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that I'm looking just here is the consistency of testing. So if I can take the same test and then 30 days later just take the same test, even if it's off by a little bit, it is the same exact test.
Right.
So we'll be able to see the differences.
Much like a body fat test. Someone's like, oh, it's dumb that you got that particular test. And it's like, well, I tested the test against the other test under similar conditions. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's trending the right way. You know what I mean?
I'm getting my test tested probably this week, so maybe I can order a test from Everly and compare the two.
Yeah, actually, no, that'd be a great idea. I'm really curious what you get from that.
Yeah.
So since you're getting your blood test done, Everly isn't too expensive. It's like, I think 150, 160.
You'll have to back off on your fetish of having women step on your balls in high heels like a day or two before, but everything should be cool.
Yeah, don't bust either. Just keep that locked.
Well, what the
And
hell?
there's that.
What am I supposed to do now then? Like that's literally my life right there.
Just stay away from computer screens.
It's actually pretty simple. Try not to think about sex for the next couple weeks.
Pretty
It
easy.
should be easy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nothing sexual and nothing non-sexual. Right.
Go monk mode.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this mind bullet potion real quick.
Oh my gosh.
Let me just
Oh my God!
down the
Straight
whole
to the
thing.
face.
Let's go. Yep.
Yeah,
Should I get-
I took some of that this morning, and I'm pretty fired up about it. Not the best tasting thing you'll ever taste, but
it
it's a
doesn't
good
taste
shot.
half bad, though.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not going to be the grossest thing you ever had either.
I'm surprised.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not. It has a little bit of,
It's got kind of an oily flavor to it. Okay, now he's getting a little weird, but he's sticking his tongue inside the
his tongue's
bottle.
gonna get stuck.
I'm trying to get all of it, you know?
Yeah, make sure you get all that Mind Bullet. But yeah, we released a new product on Mind Bullet. You can check out mindbullet.com if you are curious about it. It's the equivalent of 3 servings. I maybe should have told Nsima before he downed the whole thing. The equivalent of about 3 servings of 3 capsules of Mind Bullet. So, you know, take it as you'd like. I just take the whole thing. Now, it is pricey, so people might want to kind of space out how they take it. I utilize both. I sometimes use the capsules because I want just a little dosage of it. And sometimes I just want to, go deep.
Wait, so you said 3 servings, and 1 serving is 3 capsules, so it's like 9 capsules.
Yeah. The whole thing's
Oh,
like 9
sick.
capsules. Yeah.
And it's instant, or fairly instant, right? Because the capsules take a little bit longer, maybe.
We'll
Yep.
see. We'll time it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a little faster, I think.
Yeah.
Nsima's gonna like turn into like a pigeon and like fly away. Like, I'm out of here. Be like, holy fuck, man. I don't know if that's the desired result everyone's looking for. I was on Instagram the other day, and we all see The Rock's post, right? And I've been following his ex-wife as well, Danny Garcia. I think it's kind of cool how they're still together on a lot of projects and a lot of different things. And I believe she runs $7 Production. I don't know how everything all works out.
Yeah.
But that's been pretty cool. And then also kind of to follow along with her trainer and to know that they utilize the products. I'm really grateful for that. Super cool. And been following along with her progress. And she's doing a bodybuilding show, which is great because I think she's been pretty into fitness over the last several years, but she's gotten more and more and more into it. She's kind of gotten closer to the heat. She's gotten that iron bug, and then when you start getting into a bodybuilding show, it's just a complete another level. And then when I saw this post that she made where she's talking about how she had to back off from doing one contest, which happens quite a bit in bodybuilding. She didn't feel she was ready. Her coach didn't feel she was fully ready to step on stage with the best physique that she's ever had before. And so she wanted to back off of that and actually get leaner. And, in this video, she's explaining how this is something that she really loves to do. She wants to take it to the next level. She also explains like, man, bodybuilding would probably be a lot different if it started with females rather than starting with males. And what would it look like? And so for her, even though bodybuilding didn't start with females, she still had a lot of females in her eyesights that she admired that were like, how are these women built like this? Sprinters, dancers, women that are just super lean, and you don't always see that. And so she's kind of liked that look for a long time, and she wants to pursue bodybuilding. So here she is in the middle of a bodybuilding show. She's getting really lean. And I just saw there was a lot of positive comments. I should point that out first. As we were looking at it just now, actually, you pointed that out to me. Look, there's a lot of positive comments here. And we have a tendency sometimes to look at the negative. But I saw some comments on there, and I was just like, I get it. I know why people are having negative comments. I know why people are throwing stones and saying she sounds like a man, or she looks manly, or whatever. But I just, what I hate about that is we have the freedom of speech, so you can say whatever you want, but at the same time, I don't like this idea of just like knocking somebody down. And then also I also feel like you're not paying attention. I feel like a lot of these people may not have not even really watched the video. And here's somebody who's just throwing a lot of commitment on the table. Here's someone who is sacrificing so many different things when you do a bodybuilding show. She said she lost 30 pounds of body fat. From a mental standpoint, it's really hard. It's really challenging for anyone that has to deal with you on a day-to-day basis due to the multiple things we've mentioned on this podcast in the past. But I admire it, and I think that it's cool. And I don't know her business, but I do know the business of bodybuilding. A lot of times there are performance-enhancing drugs involved in bodybuilding. So when a Jay Cutler or Dexter Jackson or Dorian Yates, like any of these guys stepped on stage in years past, even Arnold Schwarzenegger, we're all like, oh, hell yeah, that's awesome. Arnold had the biggest chest. He had the biggest arms. Everybody's all excited. But now when a woman does it, people are pretty mad about it, and they're upset about it. And they're like, she looks like a dude. So that's what I wanted to kind of ask. What are some of your thoughts on this, Nsima?
Number one, when people say she looks like a dude, like most dudes don't even look that jacked. So like that's like, let's just be real here. She has capped delts. She's fucking shredded. But when it comes to this, like the reason why this is like this is because of like what I guess you see on TV of what a feminine woman looks like, or what a feminine woman is, super slender, dainty, girly, etc. That's what's linked to that. And masculine and physical masculinity is like, big, jacked. You see it in all the cartoons. John Cena right there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, when you think about why anyone starts, it's like when I started lifting and when I wanted to get big, it wasn't to appease other women. It wasn't to, oh, I want women to like me, so I'm gonna get big and jacked. You know, it was for me and my confidence, and I wanted to feel good. And even like now, like sometimes, or I've heard this before, like some woman will be like, oh, he's too big or he's too veiny and all that type of stuff. So there's always going to be people that don't like it. But the thing is, when a woman does this, because it's so, I guess, counter pop culture, it's not the ideal. It's not what people think that a woman should be or a woman should look like. But it's so crazy to me because when you look at professional sports like track athletes, especially track athletes, they could step on stage the next day.
And they get lean.
They just naturally are lean and super athletic. And it's just, when it comes to this, most people will not be able to achieve that in terms of the level that those track athletes are that. And any female physique athletes, many people just aren't going to achieve that. So I don't think it's ever going to be looked at positively just because pop culture will not change that quickly. But when it comes to, like, I guess the comments that I saw on that, it is at least, you can see that there are a lot of people supporting her decision to do this. It's not, I mean, I guess maybe they went on a negative or a delete spree on some of the negative comments, but a lot of people are supportive, even though it's not for them. You know what I mean?
That's what I'd like to see from people more. I guess that's kind of my whole point is,
Yeah.
you know, appreciate the hard work. And then also, too, if you look at it, you're like, this is bullshit. Like, this is dumb. She's on steroids or whatever you want to say. Do you really have to go in and make a comment? Is that really supportive of yourself even?
Yeah, the one that
Is that helping you at all? I don't think so.
The one that just doesn't make sense to me at all. And just I'm reading comments, and yeah, there are tons of positive. But someone said, "Why are we listening to someone that sticks needles in themselves to cheat?" Like,
right?
Like,
Yeah,
really, dude.
And
like,
also, yeah, you're not Tom Brokaw. And you don't have this like breaking news, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not coming in. You're not a reporter like with this late breaking news that nobody recognizes, that athletes and especially bodybuilders, people do know that bodybuilders utilize performance enhancing drugs. It's oftentimes it's like I said, I don't know her business. I don't claim to know her business. But oftentimes it is part of bodybuilding. It was part of bodybuilding for me. It's been part of bodybuilding pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah. You know, I think it's just so, first off, there's always just going to be those people that always link it back to themselves. So for the guys that are like, oh, she's too muscular, like, she's too muscular because, number one, you're just maybe not attracted to a very muscular woman. That's fine. Why does that matter? Like, when I see guys like Phil Heath or you know, those type of bodybuilders, I know that personally, like, I wouldn't want to be that big, but I can still admire what they've done. Like, that takes a ridiculous, just an unhumane amount of like work ethic to be able to achieve. That's
insane,
admirable. Yeah, you know what I mean? Same with what she's doing. It's admirable what she's doing, even if you're not attracted to it. So why are we focusing on what's so attractive to us rather than just looking at what the individual is achieving and like how difficult that is? That in itself should be more of the focus, but it's always linking back to, again, the negative comments links back to them. Or it could be partial, some of their insecurity. Seriously, it's like probably a little bit of insecurity there.
Right.
Seeing a woman that's jacked, and for a lot of our female powerlifters, seeing a woman that's deadlifting and squatting and probably benching more than you. You're too big. It's not feminine. Like,
I think a lot of times too, people need to kind of come up with a block or an excuse on why they can't have that or achieve that. You know, in this case, you know, if it's a guy commenting on a female, maybe he's not too worried about what she has or whatever. But if it's a guy commenting on like Larry Wheels, the guy's like, I can't ever have that because you're on steroids. And it's like, okay, he may use stuff and he may be really big, but that's not the reason. You know, there's a lot of other factors in there. There's hard work. There's genetic potential. There's environmental differences from how he grew up. And just a whole host of things on why you're not that person.
Yeah.
But then you're going to sit there and just be angry about it. It just doesn't seem to be any of any benefit.
Yeah.
You know.
Can we just sidestep? Let's remember where you were and comment about how impressive it is that Larry Wheels has kept his hairline. Like, I mean, every single time I see a video from him, I'm jealous because mine started to grow when I was like 21, 22. And he's going strong. It's dark. He has his hairline up to freaking the bottom of his forehead. I'm just in awe.
Genetics, baby. That guy's got genetics all over his whole body.
So lucky.
I've seen that guy ride a camel. I've seen that guy deadlift 900 pounds. There's nothing that guy can't do. It doesn't. It never surprises me. He's the mutant.
Yeah.
Freak show. I guess the other side of this whole thing is just like I just, when somebody's trying something new and somebody's trying something that's maybe something kind of different. She wants to really dive into this bodybuilding show, and she wants to just come on that stage and just look better than ever. And that was really the message. And then you get these messages that sidetrack you in life, and it is part of social media. It's part of you make a post. Now it's fair game, But my thought is, look, man, it's not really that hard to keep scrolling. It's not really hard to unfollow if you don't really like, the tone of what somebody's pumping out. I just thought it's like, it's just kind of childish, kind of stupid, and I realize not everyone's gonna like it. That's and that is, we're in America. You have the option of voicing your opinion. I guess I'm just trying to think in my head. I'm like, how does that really help? How does it really benefit us? Switching gears a little bit, I've heard some rumors. I don't know how many rumors we should share on this show, but we might as well just blow the lid off all of them, right? Who cares? Yeah. I have heard that The Rock is going to be getting involved in promoting shows that are similar to what Arnold has done. And maybe I have my information a little bit wrong. Maybe it's going to be slightly different or have its own twist to it. But it's my understanding that he's going to be running fitness expos. And I think I hope that's true, because I think, who has more appeal than The Rock? Nobody at this point, right? And then also his international pull, right? And again, there's positive and negatives to everything, and there's going to be some people that are super pumped about it, and some people are going to say, oh, he's trying to whatever. He's trying to capitalize on fitness now too, or like whatever, right? People are going to throw stones. But what I'm excited about is I think it elevates fitness for everybody. And yes, I love making money, and I love promoting Slingshot. I love the products that we have here and everything, and I love super training and powerlifting and everything. But this elevates all of it. This elevates all of fitness. And this might really be the biggest lift in fitness that fitness has seen since Joe Weider came along. Joe Weider brought in Arnold Schwarzenegger, and now The Rock. If this is true, I mean, I guess I'm sorry, I left out CrossFit. I actually think that CrossFit. I think that CrossFit is insanely influential. So, so I know that The Rock. There's a lot of talk about him supporting some of these bodybuilding shows, and that he might run a bodybuilding show. But I think there's going to be a bigger announcement made soon. There's The Rock with Hani Rambod. Yeah. But anyway, I hope the rumors are true, because I think it would be really cool. Arnold is amazing, and Arnold is a legend. And but I think there is room for somebody else.
Oh yeah, no. Think about the possibilities though, because Arnold is extremely popular, right? But the amount of people the sheer amount of individuals that follow The Rock, I think it's 140 million at this point on Instagram, and
I think he has more followers than just about anybody.
Right now, think about him posting stuff about bodybuilding. How many people are just going to be like, what's this thing where, like, why are those guys so tan? And, like, just think about the eyes that are going to be on that sport. And even powerlifting, let's say he manages to get to, like, and he has an expo, right?
155 million.
Jesus.
Well, think about this. I love what you're saying right here, because so he posted the thing about his ex-wife, Danny Garcia, and yes, there was some negative. How many people went and followed Danny Garcia? How many people went and followed Danny Garcia? And then they see another bodybuilding woman because it comes up in their feed, and they're like, I got to follow this person.
They're like, what is this?
And now they're going to the gym. And now they're doing like what we always talk about on the show. Now maybe they're going to get a little dosage of feeling the way that we feel from picking up some weights. And that's exciting to me. Yeah, that's really exciting.
That'd be awesome if it because that'd be great if it started to touch other sports like powerlifting, like strongman. If he's able to like just touch those just a little bit. The amount of just like lifting that those sports are going to get, because powerlifting's been getting really popular, right? But not like it's nothing like, let's say, CrossFit yet, even though, I mean, right? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Right? So if it can get there, man, That'd be great.
I think what CrossFit's done, I think where CrossFit ends up being super important, kind of in two different spots, is, number one, CrossFit got barbells back in people's hands again when maybe there was some deviation from it for a while with what was promoted in like Flex magazine and muscular development. Not that any of that stuff was wrong. It's just that you saw a lot of machines, you saw a lot of, and that's cool. Any form of fitness, like, it's all great. But getting some barbells back in people's hands, having people put an emphasis on performance. Bodybuilding, when you're an actual bodybuilder, the performance is kind of on stage, and your training performance certainly matters. But I think there was like maybe a shift there somewhere where that wasn't like the focus. And when it comes to CrossFit, there's like time domains and certain weights that you have to lift. And I know that the high level bodybuilders and people that are smart with bodybuilding, they understand, like, if they're going to do a seated row, that they got to figure out ways of improving on that seated row if they want to continue to have growth. But I also think there's a lot of people kind of just following along, just, I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 of this, I'm going to do 3, and they were kind of just going through the motions. And I think CrossFit kind of woke people back up again a little bit with how intense some of these workouts should be. And then also having those time domains associated with it. But even bigger than both of those things, and bodybuilding had a large worldwide appeal as well. But I think that CrossFit has a huge worldwide appeal. And I know I have friends that have gone to China. I have friends who have left their job here in the United States and gone and done the same job in China because of the growth of CrossFit. Like, for some friends with Reebok and some other friends that I have that do seminars and stuff. I'm like, wow. They like go there and teach people how to lift.
I didn't know like CrossFit was that popping in China. It's that big?
It's huge. It's huge. Australia, it's huge in a lot of other, I'm not aware of like all the countries it's super popular in, but it's big. So while some people are like, oh, look at CrossFit, it's falling apart, and it's like, man, it is just getting started in a lot of these other countries. And the same thing with fitness. In China, they don't know. They don't know. They might not know who Bradley Martin is. It's a communist country. I don't always know what I'm talking about, but I believe it's still a communist country.
It is.
And they don't have access to a lot of these things. And a lot of countries have limited access. So they might not even know who some of these bodybuilders are, who some of these fitness personalities are. So how cool would it be if The Rock was able to land something like that? And I mean, with his 160,000 followers, and then also his worldwide appeal through his movies. His movies are being seen all over the world. I know he was in China recently promoting. They show the movie there. People are aware of who he is. So that's just exciting to me. I think it's cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. And also on the note of CrossFit, though, I think you've seen those female, like the women athletes in CrossFit. They're jacked too. You know what I mean? So I think CrossFit.
They all look like guys.
But like,
It's like you wouldn't say that if you saw them walk by. You'd be like, damn.
Yeah, you wouldn't say that because like they look good.
Well, you shouldn't say anything. You should be nice, but
be nice. Yeah.
You would be thinking stuff.
Totally. But good stuff. Wholesome Christian things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, even like the even top and mid-tier CrossFit athletes that are women, like their bodies too, they're jacked, they're shredded. They have capped delts, traps, etc. So I think it's just becoming more, I guess, acceptable in all realms of sports. I guess since a lot of eyes are on it, but
yeah, those chicks are jacked. Some of the guys are pretty damn jacked too.
Yeah,
and it's just great to see. Again, like if fitness becomes more popular all over the world, it'll make training easier when you travel. Yeah. It will make staying on your diet easier when you travel. It just opens up a lot of cool possibilities. And anyone that does anything in fitness, whether you're a trainer or an online coach, you have your own supplements, you got your own T-shirt line, you have anything to do with fitness, you run a podcast. There's more people tuning into your podcast. There's just more of everything. So I think it's awesome. We got Boss of Bosses coming up again. This is year number 6 for Boss of Bosses, run by Dan Green and his wife. And I think it's great that they've been putting on a contest. It's hard to have consistency, and it's a pain in the ass running a powerlifting meet. I mean, we all take it for granted. We just think, oh, it's just like they have a bunch of weights there and it's all set up, and you don't really think about how much movement, how many moving parts there are to running a powerlifting meet, how many things had to be moved around that gym for that day or that hotel, wherever the meet is happening, how much structure and how much preparation goes into just setting the damn thing up in the first place. It's crazy. And then trying to get the weights there and make sure you have the right stuff. You need to have your kilo plates. You need to make sure you have the right collars and the right bars. And, you know, if anything's off, it's not going to be a well-run meet. Somebody could get really hurt.
Yeah.
The computer goes down or something that has all the information in it. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
lot of things that can happen. So you need to make sure that you have a lot of great people there and that you run a good meet. I've heard nothing but good things about this meet every single year. And the coolest part probably is that it brings out a bunch of lunatics.
Yeah, mutants. Brings out a lot of mutants. I've been to Boss of Bosses before. It's really, just really professionally run. I think the one, when I went there, they had, I think, 3 platforms going at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. So it was really like, it was like a machine. So they've got it going pretty well at this point.
I think Andrei Milanichev ended up breaking the all-time total record there at one point. So that was a pretty cool highlight that they've had. But they've had a lot of great lifters over the years lift there, and this year they have Steph Cohen is getting ready for it. Hayden Bowe is getting ready for it.
Yeah.
Hayden, like, man, I don't really understand how that guy is able to like keep lifting so heavy. I mean, do you follow him?
Yes, I follow him.
And what's
His
the
squat? It's just insane.
But it's like every day. Like, does he squat 600 pounds 3 times a day or something?
You know, there's some people you look at, and you look at their training, you're just like, that they can handle pain and they can handle volume. Hayden's just one of those guys that just seems like he's just, I don't know what his training history is in the past, but that man can just handle a lot of volume. And I mean, the thing is though,
Savage.
the hybrid aspect of what he does like him and Steph both do like, you know, different parts of training or a lot of volume of training where it's not surprising that he's doing these types of weights every single day. He's adapted to it.
Though they're also both very athletic.
And
They'll both like randomly hit up a Olympic lift.
Yeah.
And they'll do really well with it. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I apologize. Steph is not competing, but she will be there. So I didn't want to. There's people are huge fans of hers, and they'll probably want to put my head on a plate if I get that wrong. But yeah,
Don't
she's not
disrespect
competing.
her.
Yeah. Hayden will be competing, and you know, good luck to him, man. He's been smashing some huge weights.
Yeah. What's that on the bar right now? 617 by 3?
Yeah.
617 by. Oh no, 661 by 2.
661. I was like, where did you see that?
Whoa.
Oh, that grind was beautiful.
He's the ultimate grinder, man.
Yeah.
That guy can really grind out some weights. He on a deadlift, you know, his deadlift will just take like an hour and a half. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, I could have ate a sandwich while you were, you know, doing that deadlift.
He's a conventional guy too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy. By the way, everybody, the Mind Bullet Potion hit me about 10 minutes ago. Man, do I feel good.
Your head's floating.
Like I'm literally like, this doesn't feel like being, just like we mentioned, just feels like an extra warm hug, and I can't stop smiling. So
I actually gave you an extra warm hug. You might have forgot. Yeah, it makes you feel fucking good.
And like I don't feel bad either. Like I think I'm fasted right now. I've only had coffee, but there's no negatives here. This is just nice.
People need to check out the hybrid method because, you know, Steph and Hayden they're leading by example. You know, they're picking up some damn heavy weight, and then both of them look great. You know, both of them are jacked, and so I think, you know, that's what a lot of people are looking for. That's what a lot of people want. And I think the hybrid peeps, I think they help you with your training, they help you with your nutrition, and I think that's something else that's really brilliant that they do is they're focused on movement and your movement pattern. They're focused in on, you know, Steph. Though they both have a very good technical background, but they're both talking quite a bit about, you know, mobility and stretches. And I heard her actually yesterday talking on her Instagram. I don't know if you saw this clip, but she said a lot of times elbow pain for people is really just coming from their shoulder, coming from their tight pec. I mean, she's not sharing anything revolutionary. I've heard people talk about that before.
Yeah.
But her explanation for it was really great. She had a simple test that you can do, and it was basically if you have your palm facing towards the ground, your arm out in front of you, if you go to turn your palm up, if you have to twist outward to get your arm to twist all the way by like moving your body or by just trying to shove your thumb that way more, she said you're missing some pieces of external rotation. And it would be wise for you to stretch. Mainly the pecs are going to be the main culprit for most of us lifters because of how tight. It's actually the pecs and the lats are kind of holding everything down and holding everything just slightly out of place. And so she had a really good video on that. A lot of great technical information from both of them.
Ooh, wow. What is she pausing right now? Oh, that's 365, but still, geez.
No, she's
that woman.
Well,
so strong.
And both of them are smart with their training. Like, I know we were just talking about Hayden, how he trains like a lunatic all the time, but there's a lot of build up to that.
Yeah.
You know, we're only seeing the last 3 weeks before the meet. They both take their time, which this is the frustrating part of training when you're training. Like Steph is here, and I know we're saying 365, but 365 is chump change for a 22-time world record holder. She's an absolute monster. But that style of training, when you're doing like 6 sets of 6 or 4 sets of 6 or 4 sets of 4 or whatever it is, with those kind of intermediate weights, that's the worst. It's like you just don't want to do it, but the payoff is there.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of hang tight and like not want to make these big jumps and lift these crazy weights, it also takes a long time.
But that's the thing. Like, I think you really got to get to a point where you actually enjoy it. Because I like volume in my training. But the only reason I like volume is because like I've been training, like when I started with bodybuilding, that's all volume. It's a lot of high volume training. So like I like that feeling when your legs are so pumped that it's a little bit painful. You know what I mean? I like that. So you got to start it. You got to do it for a while, and you'll like it after some time.
Yeah, like bodybuilding. A lot of times it might be 4 sets of 8 or 3 sets of 10 or something like that. And it's usually with a similar weight. Powerlifting kind of works the same way. A lot of times it'll be like a 5x5 or 3 sets of 3 or something like that. But usually, a lot of times, if you actually look at what happens in bodybuilding and what happens in powerlifting, a lot of times the total reps are kind of similar. Oh my God.
I have this on airplane.
Oh my God. Somebody broke through. But a lot of times the overall reps are similar. Like you may get 30 reps out of doing 3 sets of 10. And if you did 8 sets of 3, you get 24 reps. Or if you did 5 sets of 5, you get 25 reps. So it's kind of interesting how the reps are similar, but the way it feels is so different.
Yeah. And one thing to think about that is like, so, I mean, there's been a lot of like research and stuff done on this, but like if you look at, 3 sets of 10 versus 10 sets of 3, there's sometimes a reason why you might want to handle that maybe 3 sets of 10 instead of 10 sets of 3, because especially if you're doing like really heavy work for those triples, you'll feel super fatigued later on. Like that higher intensity load will get to you. And also, just what was I looking for? Okay, the mind bullet potion's messing with me. Oh yeah, no, just the amount of time it'll take you in that session to do 10 sets of 3 versus just sticking out and doing that 3 sets of 10. There's that factor too. So there's really good reason for like, as a powerlifter to mix that stuff up. But one other thing that I find really, really awesome, and this should be a reason that if you're a powerlifter listening to this, you may want to add in quite a bit of bodybuilding training. If you've been training for a powerlifter for most of your training career, and you start adding in more training volume, it's literally going to be like newbie gains. It's going to be like a new stimulus. And I've done this with a few guys that like do powerlifting that are doing bodybuilding training. After a few months, they're like, oh my God, I'm noticing like my shoulders are getting all capped and they've never been capped before. Like it's going to be like when you first started training, and that's pretty awesome.
And maybe it's a good reason to like stop doing something, like you stop doing something so that you can bring it back in at some other time.
Yeah.
Maybe even like, and we mentioned this a million times on the podcast, but like, and maybe you bring in a little bit of, or maybe you lower your carbs for a little while to kind of use those as a weapon or a tool for a different style of training at a different time.
Yeah.
Same thing with the fasting. Maybe you're like, what, the whole month I'm going to really, try this intermittent fasting thing. And maybe you keep, going in and out of different things, trying different things. So you're going to get a better result every time you go back to it. You're going to get a nice bang for your buck every time you go to focus back on powerlifting.
Yes.
It will take a minute to accumulate, but once it accumulates, you'll be like, holy shit, this feels good.
Over time, there becomes like a fatigue of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And you might not even, a lot of people, when they train, they feel like they reach plateaus and they're like, oh, my bench isn't getting stronger and my squat isn't getting stronger. But a simple thing is just like you mentioned, if you were to take 4-6 weeks and just maybe do some front squatting and you come back to back squatting, you might after 2 weeks hit a PR because you gave yourself time away. The front squats may have shown you like, or may have maybe fix some little holes within your squat, and then coming back to that, boom, you fix something that you didn't even know you needed to fix.
You have been messing around with taking some time away from Instagram lately, right?
You've
You've been checking that screen time.
I've been checking that screen time, and it's not actually lately. I've been doing this for a while. There's a book I read. It was by Cal Newport, Digital Minimalism. I read it a while ago, but for a while I was just like, this is like not just Instagram, but a lot of like just social is getting in the way of things. Like there's a lot of things I really want to get done. Social media is a part of what I do in terms of marketing, so I got to be able to use it, but I got to be able to somehow input it into my daily life in a sustainable way where it's not messing things up, you know? So like, yeah, my screen time, and the reason why I love screen time is because you can't bullshit people. Like you can't say, oh, I'm on Instagram, like, less than 50 minutes a day, because they'll just be like, let me see your weekly average on your screen time. Right. So I think right now it's averaging around 45 minutes a day. And like the only ways or the only reasons I use IG is pretty much for like posting something or responding to DMs that people send to me, because like that, I want to be able to respond to those. But I've been able to be like, since, really paying attention to how much I use social, it's been like freeing up time for me to just learn a lot of things, because like I like reading stuff and learning stuff, especially with the stuff we talk about on the podcast. It's just been opening up a lot of time. And also one big thing is like, especially like when I'm with my girlfriend or when I'm with people, I used to have the habit of when there's a little bit of a down period, you just have the intrinsic want to, oh, let me pull out my phone real quick. It's not even that you think about it. You're just like, oh shit, it's quiet.
It's automatic. Yeah.
Pull my phone out. I really try to like not do that at all anymore. If there's a lull period, just wait, maybe think of something else to talk about, but I don't want the phone to be the first thing I turn to. And I think it's been really good. It's helped me out a lot.
You're like waiting in line somewhere, and the second you're like, boom, you pull out your phone, and it's like, well, why not just talk to my girlfriend? She's right there.
Right? Yeah.
Hey, how was work today? I mean, I don't know. And yeah, maybe there's not a conversation because you already talked a lot today. So maybe you do pull your phone out. It's not always going to be a negative thing necessarily. We talk about the phone a lot in my house because I got kids too. So we're always trying to figure things out, and we're, the summer we're more laxed with it, but we try not to get too lax with it, because then you got to like start everything over again. My kids all last year during the school year were disciplined. They did a good job putting their phones away. We have a specific time that we try to have them put their phones away, and the phones are supposed to go on the charger. But they're also looking for mom and dad to do the same thing. And then like, we're like, oh, we got all these excuses. And it's like, well, let's just, whatever the excuses are, let's put them aside and let's just all do the same thing at the same time. We've agreed to not have our phones with us when we eat dinner. So we don't have any phones at the dinner table. My daughter yesterday, she's like, I forgot I need to text my friend because I'm going on a bike ride with her later. She's like, can I get up and use my phone? We're like, sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of different. She interacted with us, and she, told us, and so it was handled that way. But we're just very conscious of it. We're just paying attention to it. For myself, with the amount of like Instagram followers and stuff, it can be hard, but at the same time, I don't want to like, be on my phone kind of like while they're around. So I try to be a little sneaky with it. I talked to my wife about it a lot this last week, and I said, let's figure out a way. Like, is this reasonable? Let's figure out a way for our kids to not see us with our phone. Like, is that a possibility? And it might not be possible.
Yeah.
But I said, maybe it's a possibility. So the other thing that we do, so at the dinner table, no phone. You can't like just put it face down. Like, that's not good enough. Like,
this is not
putting it face down to me is like back in the day when you play video game in an arcade and someone else would put a quarter on the arcade game. That meant like that guy's next. You can't stand there for 4 more hours, asshole. You gotta get out of the way. So, but when you put the phone down, even when you flip it face down, I think you're telling people like, you better be really entertaining, or I'm gonna fucking pick this thing up and ignore your ass.
Dude, no, you're right. I didn't even think about that, but that's so freaking true. Like, you'll put it there in its face. Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna do what you just did.
So I think trying to put it somewhere else, in your pocket or away somewhere is a good idea. The other thing that we do is we only allow one phone to come with us if we're going somewhere and we're going to eat. So it's like, yes, like I have this fucking stupid Instagram thing that I'm attached to, right? And so like sometimes it's, as dumb as this sounds, sometimes it's important to take a picture of the food. People want to know what I eat. We talk about it all the time on the show. So my wife will have her phone in her purse, and I'll say, let me just take a couple pictures. I'm not going to post anything now, and we're going to put it away.
Yeah.
And also just to communicate, if for some reason we need to communicate with somebody. And my wife and I do the same thing. So it's my wife uses the phone a lot more at home. I use the phone a lot more if I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do, like if it's like her and I, we're going to eat with some friends or something, she'll bring her phone so our kids can communicate with us. But I know better than to bring mine because I know that I'm going to be fucking around on it. I'm going to see something cool or interesting and want to take a picture or talk about it or whatever. So I just don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's actually been pretty effective. And then the other thing is, like my wife and I, we like to watch TV around 6 o'clock, somewhere in that range at night. And then sometimes she'll have her phone or I'll have mine, or sometimes even worse, we'll both have it. And the kids come in, they ask us a question, and then they see like we're like trying to do something together, but we're really not doing something together because we're not even like paying attention to each other or the show that we're watching. We got the stupid distraction. So we're still a work in progress. We're trying to do better. And so we're trying to also have a rule of like the phone just go away at around 6 o'clock at night, but the kids get a little frustrated with that because they get done with school at like 4 and they got to do homework. And so we're trying to just, the kids, they go to bed actually a little later than I do. And so we're still, like I said, we're still trying to iron everything out, but they have done a good job in the past of putting the phones up at 7 or 8, whatever time we designate, and it's just sitting there on the charger. And then the rest of us just have to follow suit. The wifey and I got to follow suit. My phone I don't even allow my phone to enter our bedroom. I just don't do it. And then I've tried to get my wife on board the same thing, but she always uses the excuse that she'll use it as an alarm. And I'm like, I use it as an alarm sometimes too, if I have to wake up super early, but it's not in the room. The damn thing's loud enough to wake me up. And then the kids aren't allowed to have their phones in the room either. Kids aren't allowed to have any technology in the room.
Oh, really? Why is that?
I just think it's too huge of a distraction. And I don't really know who they're going to be like interacting with or like, what's going on. There's just too many fucking weirdos out there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, one of the best things I like about the Screen Time app is setting the downtime hours. That's huge. Yeah, because like Mark, you always say set an alarm to go to bed. Like, well, it tells you like, and none of that, but like the screen will go dark. It'll go black on you and saying, like, hey, it's downtime now. You can easily get rid of it and keep moving, but it's still like it's a reminder, and you kind of feel like, hey, this is what I set for myself. And am I really going to go against what I set for myself? And then you kind of like, you feel like you feel like shit because you're.
It's a reminder though.
Yeah, because you're going off of your discipline, right? And then so that's one of my biggest, or what I think is one of the biggest benefits of that screen time setting on your phone.
Yeah.
The other thing that I do too is I have that like night shift thing on there.
Oh yeah.
So it'll pull out like almost all the blue light, later on in the day. And by that time, it's like I can barely see anything on there anyway.
Yeah.
It's like I can barely read it. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to put it away.
Yeah.
You know what I like?
I airplane mode it too, like at night, because of the weird, there's people that think there's weird like Wi-Fi signals that could potentially keep your brain waves awake a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know the information, one way or the other. But I just know a lot of people have talked about that in the past, so I just do it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I don't need it on. I mean, I don't need my internet on for any reason in the middle of the night. So
that's true. Yeah, and I usually put my phone in there. I put on Do Not Disturb. Not the same as airplane. I put on Do Not Disturb just because there's one person that need to be able to reach me. So, but what I was going to say, Andrew and I were mentioning this. This is just very small, but like the fanny packs.
Oh yeah.
The fanny packs actually make me reach for my phone less because instinctually, like in the past, when I reach for my phone, I go in here, but I gotta actually pull the fanny pack.
You gotta be more conscious.
Open it up. Yeah. So it's actually a deterrent to pull out the phone. I think a little bit more.
Yeah,
it's kind of great.
It's silly, but yeah, it actually works because I was just telling him like, I'll put my hand in my pocket and it's just a pocket. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, have the conversation. When I have my phone in my pocket, I put my hand in my pocket. I touch my cocket.
Playing some pocket pool.
Yeah. I feel my cocket. I feel my phone, and I'm like, wonder what's going down on Instagram right now.
Yeah.
And you pull your phone out and you don't think anything of it. But if it's not there, like, again, you just don't think about it.
Have either one of you ever deleted Instagram from your phone?
No, I have not.
It's actually kind of cool. It's a cool practice. It's really easy to put it back on there and stuff
Right.
too, but it's funny because you grab your phone and you realize there ain't nothing to do.
You gotta
Mhm.
re-download it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of like, there ain't shit to do. Like, because that's kind of the go-to, right? Like, I have Twitter, I have Facebook on my phone and stuff too, but I don't really use any of that stuff.
Mhm.
Depending on the day, like if I'm working, I will have enormous amounts of text because I don't really email much. So a lot of my work will be there'll be a lot of texting back and forth and planning of stuff and that kind of thing. But when Instagram, like I've even taken Instagram off of there before, just because I wanted to get like extra work done.
Mhm.
And then I'm like trying to find there I am getting distracted for a minute, being like, oh, I wonder what's going on. And then I'm like, oh, that's right, I don't have it. And I go back to
Mhm.
work. I'm like, oh, I wonder. It's like it keeps happening, and it's kind of nice to feel the pull, and then you're like, oh, it's not really available to me.
How about-
Yeah.
let me ask you this, because one thing that's worked really, really well for me is just like turning all of my notifications off. So like I'll put on
Yeah,
Do
I
Not
don't have any of that
Disturb.
stuff on, yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't have my notifications on because every single time in the past, especially like when those pop, you'd look at your phone, even though it's not something important, it takes you off of what you're doing. And then you'd have a tendency of, if it's somebody like you like seeing their stuff, you then click it and it pulls you into that dirty hole.
Right. Hey now.
Hey now. But yeah, like I literally just keep my notifications off. And that helps a lot. That's helped a lot for the time I've
I
had
think
it.
there's a lot of people as simple as that is. I don't think they do that.
Yeah. Like if anyone's listening, shoot, try that.
I think you know what's actually kind of a weird thing, and maybe just think of it just now. I think that people think that they're an on-call customer service person all day long
Yes.
to these people that are DMing them, and it's like that's awesome that you're responding to them. I applaud you for it. That's fantastic. But if it's causing you to take time away from things that you should be doing and or pulling you away from stuff that you should probably be doing with your family or somebody that matters who's in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't like it. I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I'm
You-
100% guilty of that with the
Yeah.
Sarmageddon series because I'm like, I'm trying to grow it. I'm trying to get more views and stuff. Trying to show people I'm not a dickhead, and I'll respond to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I did feel like oh my gosh, like this does feel like a call center.
Yeah.
You fall into that kind of you fall into a pitfall, and you're
Mhm.
like it feels good. Look, everybody wants to feel wanted, and you're like, who's this person? Oh, who's this person? Oh, who's that person? Like you're excited, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, this is
Like when-
amazing. All these people want my attention. This is fucking cool.
When it's somebody from a different country, it's like, dude, why are you wasting your time watching my videos?
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? Like, of course I'm gonna stop and talk to this guy if he's willing to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I haven't turned the notifications off, but I've gotten pretty good to like look over and be like, all right, I'll get to it. Like, I've been pretty disciplined to not like run and jump to the phone,
Yeah.
But I think turning off like all notifications would be a good idea because you still get that dopamine.
How
hit.
about when people
You do.
How about when people have that iWatch, and they keep looking at it nonstop? They're like, oh,
You know what?
oh, wait, yep. You're like, come on.
I was actually gonna mention that. No, like, in terms of my Apple Watch, I turn off the notifications on
Apple
here
Watch.
too.
There we go. I call it an iWatch.
We all knew. We knew what you're talking about.
But I turn off the notifications on here too. I don't get notifications here. And one thing I was gonna mention that I think is really useful, like sometimes when I go out, I just won't take my phone with me because like I can
That's
still
huge.
I can
Yeah.
still get text here and stuff or like phone
If you really
calls.
need it, yeah.
But I'm not gonna text back. I can't like
It's
text.
a pain, and then the calls are like, it's all weird, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
work great, but it
Yeah.
works.
It's a pain in the ass to text, so I
Right.
don't text. I'll see a text, I'll be like, okay, I'll just do that when I get my
Yeah.
phone back. But yeah, you can, if I really have to call somebody, you can call somebody and talk to them. It's fine. It doesn't sound bad.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it just like I don't really even use that feature because like I'm not focused on that anymore. So it's just so helpful.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
huge.
Hmm.
I think the main thing here is just try to be just mindful of it. I don't
Mhm.
think we always understand like how how bad it kind of is, and I think with my kids, they'll just kind of they always like so this is a great thing for people that people that have kids and people that don't even have kids, but what you're doing on your phone is not exponentially any more important than what somebody else is doing on their
Yeah.
phone. But you want to make the excuse that it is. No, I'm working. No, I have a very successful business. You don't understand. Like I have to be on my phone. No, you don't. Not you don't have to be on your phone while we're all having a meeting and we're all sitting down having coffee together.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not that important.
Yeah.
You know, what you're doing is not that important. If something is super important, because sometimes things happen, somebody calls and there's an emergency, then you would step outside. You'd say, "Oh my God, excuse me, like I have to take this call," and you would come back, and no one would think it was rude or crazy or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It would just, sometimes that stuff just happens. That's just life. But I think what I've noticed with my own children, and the mistake that I've seen my wife make in having conversations with them, she's like, "Well, sometimes there's stuff I have to respond to because I don't even really always go into work." She's like, "Dad goes into work and he communicates with people there. So he might not have as many messages to respond to later on in the day. And so sometimes when you guys are around, I'm, responding to this stuff, which is fine. But then the kids are like, well, that, we're on our phones, we're communicating with our friends." And she is trying to tell them what I'm doing is more important than what you're doing.
Yeah.
And how could that be true? That can't be true, right? So me communicating with my friends is not important. It's like, that's bullshit, Mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound good. And so it's hard to communicate to the kids. You're not going to be able to communicate like up and over them and say, this has precedent over this little stuff that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kids never want to feel that way. Like, remember when you were a kid and like you would play with like adults? I don't know if you guys ever had this scenario where you played with older people and they were like, he doesn't count, because he's 2, he's going to fucking strike out. Like, he sucks, he's not even good. And as you get a little older, you're kind of like waiting, like, when am I going to count? When are my at bats going to count, or when are my shots going to count?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lot of times what we're doing with our kids. So, with my wife and I said, look, no one's Instagram or phone is more important than anybody else's. So when it's time to put them away at night, we all put them away at night. And when it's time to, have access to them, we can have access to them. But no one really, quote unquote, needs it. And I think that's the biggest mistake. I think, Andrew, with you getting the Sarmageddon stuff, which is fucking awesome. A lot of people have been following along. How cool is that?
Yeah.
It's hard. You see the comments, you see the positive, you see the negative. The positives are making you feel great. And you feel like, I'm like this is working. This is so much fun. This is part of why I wanted to be on the podcast. This is part of this whole like evolution of stuff. And now I'm getting this intention for stuff. This feels great. And you want to respond back and forth to people, and you want to help people too. Like, oh man, I don't know, should I get involved in that? Or what diet are you doing, man? You're looking pretty good. Like, it gets you pumped up. You get excited about it. So you feel like you got to interact with it like nonstop.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that like I'm on the cusp. You're a little bit deeper. Like we know of a time where you'd leave the house and no one would be able to contact you. Like, literally, it was impossible until you potentially get back to a phone, right? Is like, but like now you're reachable all the time. And there's like, if someone sends you something, you almost feel as if, like we were just talking about, you have to get back to them because they know that they have access.
Well, if you like something on Instagram and then you get a DM right after, it's like, I know you're on your phone right now.
Right? Yeah.
There's no way you didn't see this message.
Uh-huh.
So then you do feel like, shit.
But those days were healthier. Like those days where you couldn't be reached all the time. It's almost like we need to, even though people can reach us all the time, we need to kind of live like back then where they couldn't, just for your sanity, So
Yeah, I like that. You need to like
so do
almost
I.
just pretend that you can't reach me.
yeah, you gotta have that. You gotta have that time away,
At least for part of the day,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hit me on my pager. You can only text me in numerical like digits.
But yeah, what you and Andy are doing is pretty amazing because the example you're setting, you imagine how many kids, like, first off, those kids are growing up in a time where, yes, if they have a phone, people can reach them all the time. If they have not even a phone, if they have one of those or Apple
Just
iPod
the
touches.
iPod,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, that has
Anything that has Wi-Fi, they can be reached all the time. But like, you guys are like showing them that, hey, just like there's times where you don't have to do this or you don't have to be on it, where they don't feel that they're obligated to always be in contact or always be able to reach back to everybody at the in time. So That's
What do
good.
you guys think? Would you guys ever be able to like go to like a flip phone or something? Like, I think some of these old flip phones, like you go back to like, I think they still have them, and it's actually it's emerged a little bit. But you can go back to some of these phones that
Yeah.
don't have apps on them.
Yeah, there's actually a few like more techie phones on
Mhm.
Kickstarter that literally all they have is the number pad.
Mm.
So that like you can't even text on them. Like you have to call people, but like you can always be called. So they have those now, and
Yeah.
it looks nice. It's slim.
Yeah,
Forgot the name of it though.
I've seen a couple, but the one phone that I'm like super interested in doesn't exist yet, but I want an e-ink phone.
What's that mean?
So like if you read a Kindle, like the actual e-reader,
Yeah.
you know, it looks different. It's not a backlit screen. It's not an LCD panel. It doesn't hurt your eyes. So if I can get like an iPhone that's just grayscale,
The
I'd
one
be
I'm talking about is
Really?
you
No,
want
like-
it to be like a touch like
it,
iPhone.
it doesn't matter. I just some way that I can text people. That's really like the biggest thing, and it could be stripped of all the other apps. I'd be fine with it.
yeah,
but
it's on there.
I still need to be able to communicate. So maybe I'll check this out.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we'll find it.
if it's e-ink, dude, that's so huge.
Mhm.
Like those I don't understand. Like it's such an old technology, but like it
Yeah, the
hasn't.
Kindle's awesome.
Yeah, but it hasn't like made its way into other things. Like
Mhm.
like e-ink is huge. Like I mean, it's not huge. It's for me. I think it could be like so helpful in so many different things. Like e-ink, like tablet that you can actually write on. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if that exists or not.
Yeah.
But if it did, that'd be the shit too.
I think it's so
Talking in
interesting.
the future, bro.
I think it's so interesting how, and I wonder like what other areas we have this like as a society, but you know, we've come really far in technology and we're going farther and farther and farther. But it's like we've taken something to an extent that we're now feeling we need to pull back and do
Mhm.
less. Like in terms of social media, in terms of like, you know, even like looking at our screens, right? We're at a point where, oh gosh, I shouldn't be looking at my screen so much, or I shouldn't be using this so much, even though we have the capability to do so. So it's interesting that like we're now like having to take away or get rid of certain tech in our lives because of the detriment that it has.
I think it might be like Albert Einstein. He said if there's ever a fourth world war, so there's been two, but if there was ever a fourth one, it would be fought with sticks. Meaning like we're gonna implode and explode ourselves and fucking kill ourselves so bad with the amount of technology and the way that we can nuke other people and stuff that we're gonna set ourselves back to, you know, and maybe even worse, you know.
Shoot.
Be fighting with some sticks. Did you guys hear about Elon Musk wanting to nuke Mars? You guys heard about that?
Did not hear about that.
Yeah. So, man, I am the worst with this news. I need to like actually come in here with some like real facts. But if I can remember this correctly, I think there's something about if he nukes it, and other people have had this theory before, it'll change the temperature there, and it actually might put H2O on Mars and make it habitable.
Elon. God, that
I
man,
know.
that'd be pretty sick.
I probably just butchered that. Everyone's making fun of me right now.
Hey, who knows?
I'm looking for it.
Hey, you know, on the topic of Mars, if for example it was,
You want to go?
that's actually my question to you. If they made it livable, right, where it's like, you know, it has oxygen, it's like they make it similar to a way that Earth would be. And obviously, you'd have the money to get to, like, you know,
Let's go to Mars.
if they, you know, made a spacecraft where they could take people to Mars and you could opt in to potentially live there, would you?
I don't think so. I think that like things would have to like I'd have to like know more about it, kind of like
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be the first batch.
Well, not the first. Let's just say that they're sending 100 million people to Mars within 3 years. Would you want to be one of those 100?
I would definitely
Yeah.
say that like some things are a possibility because with like Uber and stuff like that, I really wouldn't have thought that you would have this app that some random person would come pick you up. Now, you know, taxi services were similar. It was kind of a random person, but they'd have to go through a big old process, right? This
Mhm.
is like literally could be the kid next door that just happens to work for Uber and he swings by and picks you up, right? And then same thing with Amazon, all the different, there's like unmarked trucks just dropping off packages to you. I wouldn't have really thought a lot of those things would happen. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't have been as accepting of trying those things
Yeah.
in the very beginning stages, or if someone told me about it 10 years ago. So I think this is kind of, as long as there's a good progression of it, it's like, yeah, maybe I would try it.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do definitely think that there's like weird shit though, and there's like sometimes penalties to be paid for when you're trying to go too far outside of like what people are capable of and what's possible. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. What
like
do you mean?
well, just like wealth is not a it's not a guarantee that you're gonna like. You can't just be wealthy and out like money everything. You know, you can't just like because one person has more money than the next
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that they can live longer than someone else. And then um, there's just been other examples over the years of some things just kind of like blowing up in people's faces when they're just trying something too hard. I mean, literally, we've had rockets blow up with people in them because it's like, well, maybe maybe this is something that we shouldn't really be too worried about. You know, so
Elon on Twitter, he just nuke Mars and all caps or whatever, and he's like, and he follows it up with another tweet, not saying it solves everything, mind you, but it's a step in the right direction. It's like, what?
Yeah, that's great. What a crazy bastard. Yeah. Kind of on this topic of trying to free up some time away from starving yourself or fasting your way away from your phone a little bit. It can free up some time in other places. But what about just implementing this into other parts of your life? Like Jason Kalipa, he wrote a book called the Amrap Mentality, and a lot of what's behind the Amrap Mentality is, and it all comes from CrossFit. I have the time domain, so I'm going to hang out here. Boom, set my clock. He actually does that. He'll let's just say he wanted to let's say that he wanted to check Instagram and he wanted to make a post. He'd be like, what's a reasonable amount of time to associate with that? It's going to take me 10 minutes to do a post, and I can look at it for 10 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes. Boom. Sits down in a coffee shop. 20 minutes is up. His little alarm thing goes off, and he moves on to the next thing. What if you applied it to a lot of other aspects of your life so you're not in the gym forever? You're not in the gym for 4 hours. You can maybe apply it to other things so that maybe you can try some new things. Maybe something new, maybe you've always wanted to try something new, but you're like, I don't have time for that. Well, maybe you can make time for it if you, I guess, if you stopped wasting time in other areas. And I always think about, I always think about these like little transitions that we have in a day, from getting from one thing to the next. Now, I end up being a staller. I stall a lot, and then it like leaves me a little bit behind, and so I don't always end up places exactly when I should, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I could be better at it, and it's something I do recognize, and it's something that I do better at here and there. I think everybody can be a little bit better at that stuff, and I think if you were to think about like a wrestler, like a collegiate style wrestler, or MMA or jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu even, like, there's posturing, like if we're going head to head, right? Now, I'm not trying to give you like a break. I'm not trying to give you a rest. I'm not trying to like let you relax.
Mm-hmm.
But there's even posture like that shows you that, hey, I'm kind of in relax mode. And then what do? You're like, okay, we're taking some time off. Now you might, utilize a technique to make me think you're tired or make you, and you might lead into another thing. But what if your transitions always kicked ass? And what if you just never let up?
Yeah.
What if you were like always on your way to something? You're always on your way to doing something. And even in jiu-jitsu, while you would normally think, okay, this is like we just sprawled and like we were going for something. We both are kind of dying because we've both been working for a position really hard. And now here's like you kind of see the guy stand tall for like, why would you stand tall? Like you're trying to take each other down, right? And so, therefore, like, what if you're just fucking going, as hard as you can all the time? Even just something as simple as how long does it take you to like get out of your car when you go somewhere? Or are you messing around with your radio and your phone and stuff before you drive off somewhere? What if you just, wherever you're leaving from, let's say that you did want to look at your phone. Wherever you're leaving from, what if you looked at your phone before you left there, got a couple things done that you needed to get done, and then the second you got in your car, you actually headed somewhere? Things like that, trying to make some of these transitions in your day smoother. I talked about how, I usually shower at night around 7 o'clock, lay out my clothes for the next day, and boom, 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 boom. When I wake up, everything's all ready to go.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, and it kind of, it's not really like giving me any extra time, but there's a lull in the day where there ain't a lot of shit going on. Sometimes I'll take the shower even just right when I get home, because in my household, there's not really much going on at that time. So I'll shower at like 4 or 5. So between 4 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get that done, lay out the clothes for the next day, and now I can kind of lounge around. And I already feel like some things are set forward in the beginning of that next day, giving me more time for other things.
Yeah, no, what you're saying right now is like that's what I do with like a lot of the work I do, or the tasks that I have during work. If I have like these multiple different things I need to do in work during a day, I'll set a time limit for each. And there's actually a technique for this. It's called the Pomodoro Technique, right? You may have heard of it. It's like where you can set, you want to do something for 30 minutes, and maybe you'll take a little bit like 5 minutes and you'll do another 30 minutes. Some people turn it into a game. But what I've noticed is like whenever I set like, okay, this batch of programming should take me an hour and 30 minutes. If I didn't set a time, I could like take 2 hours or something, because like during that task you get a little sidetracked. But if you set a timer for how long you want it to take you and have that timer going in front of you, you'll like really be like, oh shoot, I have 30 minutes left. Okay, let's focus on this and let's get it done. A lot of things that you think would take you a really long time will be substantially shorter. And it's really funny because I know a lot of people that like work for the state, and they have a 9 to 5. And I hear this so much. They're like, you know what? We have so much time. There's so many lull periods during the day. Like if you think about the amount of work they have to do, or some of them, if they really worked for a period of time, they may just be done with that work in 3, but it's stretched out to 8 because there's so much time that's set for that. You know what I mean? So, and there's another interesting thing I heard, right? Where a majority of people, can, if it comes to like a really deep work that they need to get done, all you really need is like 4, or all you can really do and do well if you want to get deep work done is 4 hours. So if you think about it, if you're having a place where you're having to do a specific work or specific task for 8 hours, it might be better for like, I guess, I don't know, the work world, if things were set in just shorter periods. It might just be more productive for everybody in line. I know the world won't change and go to a shorter amount of hours of work, right? But it just might be better for people if they were paid a little bit more, but were able to work fewer hours, just to have a more productive workforce.
There's time periods where you're in the middle of a workout and you might think to yourself, oh, what do I want to kind of finish with? And you might think of a couple things, but you're like, those things don't really match up with anything that I care about at the moment. So I'm not going to do them. Right? So you're not going to like waste your time with it. I'm not going to waste my time with a tricep kickback, because that's not something that I feel like working on right now. Right? You're not going to waste your time with some of these exercises that you don't feel provide value for you at that moment. So just kind of like, what if you kind of thought about everything that way? And even your training, it's like, do you really need to like have 12 exercises in a workout? I think you could probably. And do you really need to work out for 2 or 3 hours? Probably work, if you're really working hard. I mean, shit, a CrossFit workout, sometimes some of those Metcons are like 15 minutes, Plus, I mean, that's including the warm-up. It's like a 12-minute thing that you do, and you're dead. You want a killer workout, try, 21-15-9 of doing some deadlifts with a really light weight. Do 21 reps of that, and then in between that, do like a box jump. Go back so 21 reps of the deadlift, 21 reps of the box jump, and then do 15 reps of the deadlift and 15 reps of the box jump, and then do 9 of the deadlift and 9 of the box jump. I mean, look, there's a lot of ways you can have a really efficient, and you could try that for like 2 or 3 rounds. I mean, you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
You could try it for a round if you never did it ever, never tried it before. Your heart is going to feel like it's going to want to explode. You'll feel great. You'll feel sweaty. You'll get a lot of, some deep breathing in that workout for sure. But like, what if you kind of just thought like, how do I, and you don't want to be a maniac about everything all the time. You don't want to put your girlfriend on the timer. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. You only have 18 more minutes, so you better hurry up. You better say something good or I'm out of here, right?
Oh man.
You don't want to be doing stuff like that, and you don't want to be too like militant about everything, right? But at the same time, you got shit to do, and you want to be productive, and you want to try to do the best that you can. And I think what I see a lot of times in fitness is people just spend way too much time in the gym. And I think figuring out ways of knowing that you're going to be there the next day
Mm-hmm.
is a great place to start. When you're midway through your workout, you should think about when's the next time you're coming in. Because if the answer is like you're not going to be able to get into the gym or get the style of workout that you like because you're going to be out of town for a little bit, and then maybe you stay there a little bit longer. That's okay. But for the most part, you're like, well, I'm going to be here tomorrow morning. I might as well. I'm going to do 2 more things and I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Get some productive stuff done and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, I can. No, if your workouts are taking you 2.5 hours, I can understand if you're only training like 2 times, 3 times a week. I can get that. But if they're if they're that long and you're getting in there 4 or 5 times a week, 6 times a week, whew, there's a lot of efficiency that's being.
Why do you think
wasted there.
people do that? Like, do you think people are scared, like that they're not going to get the results?
No, I think that there's probably a lot of being on the phone, probably too much resting in terms of rest periods. That's one thing I notice a lot. Like they'll do a set and then they'll wait like 3 minutes until their next set. I can understand that with the big lifts, especially when doing a heavy compound movements. But when you're going from, let's just say it's a hack squat or something else, you don't need to be spending 3-4 minutes resting. That's why I really try and whenever I come in here, I try to lump movements together, and do one movement, then the other movement, come back to the other movement, back and forth, so that I'm not taking too long, and so that I can get done with my workout within an hour, hour 15, maybe an hour 30. I put it all together. I think a lot of people would have much more intense, much better, better feeling workouts if they did that.
I really like that a lot. An example might be, you might do some leg curls in between doing some walking lunges.
Mm-hmm.
They both work the hamstring quite a bit, but the leg curl is not going to cost you a lot in terms of how you're able to lunge.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to all of a sudden go to do your lunge after you did some leg curls and just crash on the ground because you're holding 25-pound dumbbells. You're going to be totally fine. And I like kind of working opposite muscle groups. Sometimes you can superset and work the same muscle group and really get a good burn and a good pump in there. But think about this. If you rest 90 seconds in between doing, let's just say, a bench press and a curl, just set up a curl bar near a bench or get some dumbbells near a bench. If you rest 90 seconds in between each one, you'll get that whole entire, curl and bench stuff done in a much shorter period of time had you have done them separately.
Yeah.
And that's something to kind of think about, because you don't need, you would have I'm talking about 90 seconds rest after you did your bench press and your curl. So you bench press, curl right away, then you rest about 90 seconds. And the reason why we need some rest is just because if we're trying to train for strength or hypertrophy, we need to kind of reproduce what we did for a couple of sets so we get in a proper amount of volume. So if we just didn't rest at all, to get muscle growth and to gain strength significantly, it's not going to happen if you have no rest at all. It's going to be actually kind of to your detriment, and you're just going to kind of wear yourself out. So you need some rest, but 90 seconds should be a good enough amount of time.
Yeah, and what we were mentioning with in the gym, just put the phone in the backpack or something, because seriously, even for myself, yeah, there will be times you're taking videos and stuff here, but I'll keep my phone on the other side of the gym unless I really need it. So in between my rest periods, I'm not on IG, because that's happened to me too. I've done it before where I end up going on the gram and then my rest period goes from 90 seconds to 6 minutes. Right. So you don't need to be wasting all that time, letting that get in your way of having a really good workout.
And even if you're somebody that feels the need, we shouldn't say need, if somebody that feels the need to share stuff on Instagram during your workout, then also kind of think about that a little bit too. Think about what that's going to look like for the day. You might already have in mind some of the things that you're going to do. What's something new or different? What value can you provide to somebody who's watching? Because you don't want to just film. You don't want to film a bunch of random stuff. Then you're going to have a lot of stuff to go through. You're going to be taking way too much time in between your lifts for any of that to be productive. So you would want to think, okay, well, I'm doing this cool superset today. I'm going to share that. But what you want to do is get your work in, and you're just showing them your last set when everything's all, maybe somebody else can hold the phone for you for a couple seconds, or you could prop the phone up somewhere. And now it didn't really cost you anything. It didn't slow you down much. It took you a couple seconds to set the camera or to hand it to somebody. But you're not making your post right there or anything. It's just that's all you did, but I found for me, with trying to share stuff in the gym, I have to be really careful about when it is, because like when I first get here, I'm not always even in the mood to like lift. And I don't want to share anything with anybody if I don't feel awesome, right? If I feel really good, I want to share everything with everybody. I'm super happy and super pumped, right? And I try to be that way every day, but it doesn't always work out. Once I get in some lifts, though, my mood changes entirely. Once you kind of got your warm up done with your squats and you did your first set, man, now you kind of feel the high of the lift and you're like, oh, that feels pretty good. Okay, cool. Then it gets that much easier to share information with other people.
Do you feel, have you ever thought about if you like started lifting in this age, like, do you think anything would have been different with you at all in terms of the way you look at lifting or in terms of just anything about it? Like, let's say you started lifting and you were like 20 years old and you started lifting in 2015. Have you ever, like, would anything be different for you, you think, or no? No, it's kind of a weird question, but.
Yeah, no, I think, man, I think a lot of things might be different. I have thought about this kind of stuff before. Like I thought, if I would have grew up in a time where there was like MMA, I can't imagine a scenario where I wouldn't have tried it at like a young age, but I was unaware of MMA. Obviously it still existed. It's been around, that kind of fighting has been around for a long time. But I didn't know anything about it until I got older. But, when it comes to actual fitness and it comes to training, I think it would change a lot. I think that I would probably be more worried. I'd probably be more like self-conscious about, what I post, what I say, how I sound. Am I really like a material expert? I mean, at this point, I don't give a fuck because I've done it for so long. So if somebody wants to dispute it, I can say, go fuck yourself. I squatted 1,080. I can just say like, I've done some of these things. Right.
Yeah.
But maybe through that experience of doing it later and starting everything later, maybe I wouldn't have taken some of the same path. Like I can lean on my strength and say, well, what you're saying is not true, or I have this experience this way. Or I can even just flat out share my experience. I don't need to argue with anybody about it and say, this is what I've been able to do. This is how it's worked for me. This is how it's worked for a lot of people in this gym. But, if I would have started a lot later, I think things would have been a lot different. I think I'd have some like body image issues. Like I feel like I have a pretty healthy body image issue of myself now. And I have for a long time. But, when I was a kid, I got a little bit fat. As an adult, I kind of like purposely got fat, which was a little different. So I never really cared too much about that. Mm-hmm. But in this day and age, just with like the way that social media is, I mean, that's kind of the game, is like to be in shape and to be strong.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have started everything later, would I have allowed myself to even get to like 300 pounds? Would I have allowed myself to really push that far and that hard? And, I don't know, like all kinds of things could change. Maybe even the negative comments, dude, like you're so fucking fat. Why are you even bothering to bench? No one cares, dude. You weigh 300 pounds, like maybe after a while I'll just be like, oh, well, they're right. I'm fat. I'm going to change what I'm doing. So I think it's a kind of a cool question.
Yeah. No, I've thought about this a lot. I think it's really challenging. I know we've spoken about this a little bit too in the past, but I feel like it's a different kind of beast nowadays. Like, there's this guy I work with. He's 21, and he was talking to me about this. We talked about this in length. He's like, "Yo, man, like, I'm trying to do this. I haven't been lifting that long, and it's really, really tough." Like, he sometimes gets depressed because he's like, I mean, yeah, I know I got to put in more work. I got to put in more years. When I see just like all of you, just like so jacked, and you're doing this, I don't know if I want to give myself the time. Like, it's really tough. Because I think the big thing that I was able to do was just like first off, I was able to start lifting before social media was so big and before it could really have that effect on me. But I also learned to just kind of fall in love in training before anything else, because I'm not in love with physique, but I'm in love with the feeling of training and that type of thing. But if you're like seeing all of this, getting all of this information, and seeing all of these people who are inspiring, right? It's really, really, really tough not to just feel down on yourself for not being close to that level yet.
Yeah,
So
and you feel like they have it all, and you don't have nothing.
exactly.
And then like I think being naive is actually a really powerful powerful piece of the recipe. Like when you're mixing everything up in a blender, it's like throw in some of that because that's actually important to not really know what's going on. So like you may have still saw people in magazines, and you may have saw some people at the gym, but you're like, I'll get there. Like probably only take me like 6 months.
Yeah.
Like Kai Green, like yeah, he's pretty big. I saw some pictures of him, but like. I'm sure I'll at least be halfway there, at the end of this year.
I had no clue, man. I had no clue. Like this is another thing I've thought about too. Yo, if I started lifting, if I was born a little bit later and I started lifting at like 16 in the age of social media, seeing everything I see, I may have taken something. I think I really might have, just because I would have thought that that's the way or that's the only way. Because like you see a lot of people, some people make really irresponsible videos saying, hey, this is my stack and this is what you need to take if you actually want to get big. And like all these people are saying, you really can't get this big or this strong without this. Being young and impressionable, I would have thought that's true. And everybody else who is saying it is possible to get that strong potentially, without it, I wouldn't have believed him. I think I may have actually gone down that road because I was I would have been easily influenced. But I was lucky enough to be lifting in at an age where there wasn't much social, and being naive, like you said, like I didn't know what the hell was out there, where I just like, I lift and get big. That's how it's done. And it was that was the way for me.
It's also, I think, important that your mom, encouraged you with soccer.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you didn't play soccer, you'd be a completely different person. It shaped so many different things for you. And then, when I think back to some of my stuff, my parents always been encouraging with sports and stuff too. And I think that it's not necessarily just a sport. It's the fact that you were just doing something and the parents were behind it. Like Andrew, you say your daughter is into dance. Like it doesn't matter what the thing is. It's just like, it's just a something. It could be playing the piano. Like it doesn't have to even be exercise, but you're into something, and that ends up being something. It really changes your life forever. As weird as that sounds, even if you only did it for a few years, it changes a lot of things.
Yeah, and Mark, I'm curious, and I mean, this could be a totally different podcast, but like when you were chasing those gigantic numbers, like how the hell did you keep it all together at home with the family and have time?
That is a totally different podcast.
Yeah, I know. And so hopefully we can, start up another one in a little bit here. But that's really what I'm curious about, because like by no means am I even like my fingers on the surface. I haven't even scratched the surface, right? And I'm looking around at the clock every single day like, dude, I have to go to bed 2 hours ago in order to make this work. And I'm like, dude, this is just to go train in the morning to feel better, to be a healthier person. I can't imagine trying to squat over 1,000 pounds and what that's like what that entails. What
so
that
I just didn't know anything. Again, like sprinkling a lot of being naive. I just didn't know any better, and I was like, I'm just gonna figure this stuff out, and I'm gonna make things work. I kind of think I'm a believer in, like kind of forcing things to work. Like I might not always have the right decision, but I'm gonna make sure that it's right, because I'm going to put a lot of effort behind it. And so when I came to that kind of stuff, I probably didn't hold it together that great. I probably could have been home a lot more, but it was just, I was so driven and I was so into what I was doing. There was no, and what was cool too is because at that time I didn't really see as much from other lifters. You'd still see it because like YouTube was still around, and there'd be some stuff going on here and there, and there's like MySpace and like there's some people floating around out there with some videos and stuff, but there's just so much less of it. And because everything was less popular, people weren't as good. As the population grows, as more and more people get into strength, then there's more and more mutants, right? There's like if Larry Wheels wasn't exposed to strength training, then we wouldn't ever know, what's possible, right? Or Brian Shaw or whoever. So when the field tends to open up, the competition gets bigger and stronger and better. And so, like, I only knew a little bit of what was out there, and I was obsessed with trying to, like, beat anybody that I knew. But there's also a lot of people that I didn't know that were really crushing huge weights, but it's kind of good I didn't know them because I was focused in more on, like, myself. It wasn't so much about me, like, beating other people, but I was like, okay, I know I'm capable of beating some of these people that are around here.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we handle that shit, you know?
Yeah.
But the cool thing about that and what I can really be proud of is that, you know, you'll hear some people say, oh man, I really got caught up in my business, and they're like, get fat, you know, they get out of shape. They no longer are doing some of the things that they love. But, you know, and this is obviously with Andy, none of it would be possible without her. Raising my children, creating Power Magazine, creating the Slingshot, and going after, like, all-time world records, you know, like all that all at one time. So there was never, and also just even the simple act of trying to figure out how to make ends meet, trying to figure out how to make money. So there's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, but it's a good thing that I was, like, so naive that I was like, it's gonna, like, work out one day because I'm gonna be awesome at this.
Did you already make the Slingshot by the time you hit that, or was it, like, after?
No, so it was like a lot of the stuff was, like, simultaneously. A lot of stuff was going on all at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what year the 1,080 squat was, but it was probably like 2013 or 12 or something. When I fell, you know, I don't know, I don't remember some of that. I don't remember where some of those things were. So I don't remember everything, but I do know that the Slingshot, you know, started in 2010. And that was kind of the evolution of, or not the evolution, that was kind of in the middle of my prime and powerlifting from 2008 until about 2012.
Yeah.
Was when I was at my best.
Last thing, the thing you mentioned about, like, being naive, like, you know, with all of that, you're like, I mean, you were just competing against people you knew or whatever, but you were, like, kind of naive to things. I think we got to figure out a way, especially for, like, newer lifters coming into the game, a way for them to simulate being naive, because it's hard. Like, inherently, you cannot be naive in this day and age. You have access to everything, but how can you still have that push and have that drive, like somebody who just doesn't know and they're just pushing at it and they're just going at it, right? I think that was one of the big reasons why I was able to do something, because I just didn't know what the hell everyone else was doing.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is, like, to kind of play off of that and to still, like, kind of stay naive is maybe you're not necessarily naive. Maybe you are a little bit aware of what other people are doing, but maybe you just have a really, really strong belief in yourself. And the only way you're going to build up that belief in yourself, though, is you have to prove yourself. So you were saying you might have gave up and been like, it takes too long. If you can figure out a way to kind of stay with it and just understand that if you just get a little bit better just all the time, people will kind of laugh at you at first, and they'll be like, so what, he benched 100 pounds, or, you know, oh, he lost 10 pounds, but after a little while, when the time starts to, oh, you started working out, that's funny. You know, like, people are going to be dicks to you sometimes, right? There's going to be people that are positive, but there'll be people that will shit on it, especially on social media. After a while, people go, oh shit, like, this guy's taking this shit serious.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you can build upon some of that. And hopefully you can just get enough of, if you can get a little spark going, then you can get a whole fire going. You know?
Yeah, we got to develop Slingshot blinders. just keep trucking. Yeah.
Yeah, like a horse, right? Getting those blinders on. All right, peeps. Thank you guys for listening. Really appreciate it. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch y'all later.